So more and more Americans keep turning against Donald Trump. We got some new numbers out, and let's just jump right in. So is the headline come from the Washington Post. Trump approval sinks as Americans criticize his major policies. Dang. What's going on with his poll numbers? So approval rating, April, 39% approve, 5% no opinion or skipped, and 55% disapprove. We should probably start calling these numbers disapproval rating as they just keep sinking. February, his numbers were 45% approval and disapproval at 53. So, I mean, how bad and how low can his numbers possibly get? I mean, perfectly frank, with his policies that are widely unpopular, it'll be interesting to see, like, I mean, when midterms come around, if he just ends up being a lame duck for the next, couple of years, I think it's going to be scary for the Republicans. These are the numbers here. Historically speaking, it looks like after 100 days, gee, we're going all the way back to like Roosevelt. I see Roosevelt. That's the first thing that popped off my on my screen. But I mean, basically, are we talking about the worst in history kind of thing? It says Trump's 100-day approval ratings in both terms are lower than any president since polls began. Wow. Okay, I guess we are talking about worst in history. It really is. His polling data is the worst in history. This is so just to be fair, we'll kind of take a look at this. So he's worse than George W. Bush, and I remember Bush's numbers got really low. And then Ford and Nixon, which was a very tumultuous time in the country with the whole Nixon Watergate scandal, et cetera. And then and also in that year as well, you have the deal with the Vietnam War. You're talking Trump is even lower than that. Wow, that's crazy. Let's also see what else says. Nearly 7 in 10 say the Democratic Party's out of touch. Okay, so to be fair, right? So people are not feeling good about the Democrats necessarily either. While 6 in 10 say the same about Trump. So you could certainly make the case that Trump is awful, polling numbers are bad, but you could also say, hey, but I mean, have you seen those Democrats lately? They look pretty awful as well. So this is where where we're at, and I'm just showing you guys what the numbers are, because I do see people out there that say I don't like Trump, but I don't like the Democrats either. And the problem is going to be is just to be frank with you guys, like how can we get people who hate, say for example, hate both parties to either choose a side because they may not just participate at all, or how can we get new candidates that appeal to people that are in touch with the Americans, which I mean, in my opinion, I would hope, regardless of party, that both parties would be good choices and would be in touch with Americans, which I which I don't think is a crazy thing to say. Something I try to mention all the time on the channel. I understand it's a complicated question because you have various states, various constituencies, different types of voters that have different needs, and so for example, say the voters, and we just use example, I don't know, North Dakota, may have different needs and priorities than say voters in Georgia or say voters in California. I mean, it's just going to be different. So it is hard to run a campaign successfully and to appeal to everyone. I don't think you're ever going to get 100% of the country behind you. But, certainly you can pick things that do matter to Americans. I think jobs it would be a big one, affordable housing. I talk about this stuff all the time, healthcare, transit, education. But it is interesting, these numbers. So when you take a look at this, in touch. So this was the question. Do you think blah, blah, blah is in touch with the concerns of most people in the United States today, or out of touch? So in touch, 39% say Trump is in touch. Republicans rank at 35%, and then Democrats in touch with the people, 30%. So Democrat numbers are actually pretty bad as well, to be fair. I mean, you could call this as being just a total disappointment with just how politics are in the USA. And what's so crazy about it, and I'm just talking a lot with you guys, if so many Americans are unhappy, it's like you would think that, say, third party candidates, or not necessarily, it doesn't have to be third party. You could say people within the party, establishment parties, if you want to say that, would try different campaigns to really connect with the people. But also, to be fair, the way the American system is done, it takes a lot of money to run. So, I mean, you guys know this. Money it rules the roost in the USA. But these numbers are quite telling about the current political stances that are happening. So it's not just Trump. I'm going to just show you all the numbers. Here's one. Trump receives negative marks across 7 issues. So he's underwater on immigration, managing the federal government, looking out for the interests of American people. So that's at 41% approve, 58 disapprove. The economy is underwater. Relations with other countries, tariffs on imported goods, and the recent turmoil in the stock market. Wow. That's actually a really big one. 67% disapprove of the stock market and a 31% approve. Now, to be fair to Trump, because I just wanted to give different perspective on this stuff, no matter who's in office, they can't necessarily control everything that happens in the market. However, with the whole Trump tariff thing, that's Trump. And I would say we're overvalued as it is, but then add on top of the tariff and the trade war, yes, things are pretty ugly out there. I mean, a lot of these things are self-inflicted wounds. So it's actually quite interesting just to see, like, again, how low can these numbers go. And to be fair, if people don't like the Democrats either, could the Trump and the Republicans actually stay in power with these poor numbers? But there's got to be a change. I mean, I just you can't run a country this way, and I'm saying for either party, right? With these kind of numbers, I mean, you would think that people would start to reach out to other and hopefully younger candidates. Like I keep mentioning that, and sometimes the older viewers of our channel, they get upset when I mention age because they'll say, "Well, Chris, not everyone is old and dementia and senile like Trump," and it, absolutely correct. I mean, to be fair, like say something like if you ever hear Warren Buffett speak or say Bernie Sanders, they're quite getting up there in years, but they don't sound anywhere near crazy as Trump. And I just give a couple examples because not everyone who ages ages the way that Trump does. What's this one? Most Americans say Trump is going too far on several issues. Okay, question. In each of these areas, do you think Trump is going too far, is not going far enough, or is handling about right? So where's he going too far? The number one, they're saying trying to expand the power of the president. 64% are saying going too far. And that's, I think that's probably one of the biggest ones is just overreach of power, right? Closing federal agencies, 57% say going too far. Laying off government employees, which is kind of a similar thing, 56% too far. Taking measures against his political opponents, 56% saying taking that too far. Trying to end efforts to increase diversity in the government and private workplaces. So that was a little bit more 50-50, right? That's at 51. And deporting undocumented migrants, that's at 48. So things are going too far. So this is actually an interesting data. Look at this. Oh, here's another one here. It says more than 3 in 4 oppose reducing federal funding for medical research. So all those attacks, universities, attacking research, etc., not so popular. What's this one? Majority of Americans oppose various Trump proposals. So let's start with the most unpopular ones. So oppose reducing federal funding for medical research. So, and for me, this should be a fairly universal thing. If I said, hey, should we try to cure cancer? Should we try to, cure ailments? And for, the vast majority of Americans out there, you want better medical for your, for your family and your friends. So, I mean, they've been attacking research, and I've been saying all along that is a strength of America. Is our, it's not just medical research, but our innovation, our research is the strength of America. So yeah, people are against Trump, trying to cut that. What else are Americans opposed? Increasing the federal government's role and how private universities operate. Interesting. Okay, so those are losing issues for him. I don't know why he keeps pushing that, but that's what Trump is up to. Ending birthright citizenship. So actually 67% are opposed to him doing that. Shutting down the U.S. Department of Education. Wow. 66% are opposed. This is actually really interesting to read these kind of numbers because, I've been, let's be frank, I've been bummed out about what they've been doing with attacking universities and education, but it seems like I'm not alone. You're not alone either. Freezing foreign aid, providing food, health services, and disease prevention services for people in poor countries. 62% are opposed to that. Cutting back environmental regulations, right, on oil and gas drilling. 61% oppose that. Deporting international students who have been criticized U.S. policy in the Middle East. 59% oppose that. And then sending undocumented immigrants who are suspected of being members of the criminal, gangs, etc., to El Salvador without a court hearing. 51% oppose that. So that one's actually split on this poll. We saw another data on this one, and it was still negative for Trump, but it was a much larger gap. And then what else do we have here? Most Americans say Trump's economic policies will cause an economic recession in the short term. 72% yes, very and somewhat likely, right? So are we seeing a recession because of Trump? What else do we have? This one here. Do you think Trump's economic policies will put the U.S. economy on a stronger foundation for the long term, weaker foundation, or have no impact on the economy's future? Because essentially what Trump has been telling people is, no pain, no gain kind of thing, right? In order for us to, have a better future, we got to have a lot of pain now. Only 31% believe that, meaning that we're going to be stronger in the future. 42% are saying weaker. 22%, to be fair, saying too soon to say. And then only 4% say have no impact on the economy and the foundation. 2/3 of Americans say Trump administration is trying to avoid complying with the courts. Yeah. And a lot of these things, and it's like multiple issues that are going along with this, going along with these numbers. But I think the key to understanding like kind of where we are in this era is Trump at least has polling data, because deciding whether or not Trump is the worst president in history, there's a lot of subjectivity in that, right? One person's worst president could be another person's best president. Depends how you look at things. But in terms of just raw numbers, yes, he's the worst president in history after 100 days. Just see it right there, as long as we've been doing this polling data. So love to hear your thoughts on any one of these things. Do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.